A good, great morning, guys. A good, great morning to all who tuned into the realest thing coming out of Guyana. The Guyanese Critic. Yes, all here is live and direct from our studios in Queenstown, Georgetown, Guyana. And this morning we will have Dr. MANDEEP Roy, who is coming back to the region. The lady's so excited with Guyana and Barbados and Dominica. The lady coming back to the region. But I tell you, she can't tell me she's just coming back to the region just like that. I think she smell high. She had to smell high. Everybody smell high. All these people coming from all over the world now, they know Guyana. I never see these people before. Like some critic, I would like to come to Guyana. No, you stay right where there. But MANDEEP is coming back, and it seems that she's beginning to love Guyana and the region. She said the region, not Guyana. But I've been Barbados. She been Barbados. Barbados, they got nice clean streets and so they got some beaches and so. And I'm telling you, we show a lot more amazing things in Guyana, right, than Barbados has to offer. So I know we should choose her when she come back. She went to Dominica. She get a very nice reception there, very positive. But let Dr. MANDEEP Roy tell you about what she see, where she's been. Let me hear from she, right? But I know where all these people coming from. No, I'm going to ask her this morning because it's becoming very suspicious that a lot of people want to come to Guyana now. I don't know where they're coming from. I don't know who these people are and what attracts them to Guyana. If it's high, as the mayor says, high. Hey, good morning. Good morning, MANDEEP.
Morning. That was a good prepping of me. I like it. Suspicious. Yes, I hear you.
Thanks for taking time out of your busy schedule to tune in with us this morning.
Why are you being all formal? You weren't formal before I got on the screen. You were like, why is she coming back? What has she smelt? What is she up to? And now you're all being formal. I can just address your questions right now.
Yes.
All right. So firstly, I said the region. I didn't say Guyana, so you don't need to be so suspicious. And you're right that Barbados has clean streets and beaches, but that doesn't mean it should necessarily be Barbados. You're right. Dominica gave me a very warm reception. Dominica has this has these extreme adventure sports, like remember that little shoot I did from Kaichur, the waterfall in Dominica. You jump into the waterfalls. Like, I have to share this with you, and it's really insane at like what they do within their gorges and how waterfall after waterfall they take you through. You abseil into the waterfall, you jump into different waterfalls, and they show you different techniques of jumping, and you can spend a whole day. It's quite extreme. You can start from 6 a.m. and carry on till the sun sets, like an 11-hour expedition, and still not have seen the whole thing. But it's like rainbows and sunshine, but you're also deep in the forest. So Dominica really, if you're into really experiencing nature, I really recommend. But I said the region because there are other places to visit too. And until Guyana formally gives me an invitation, maybe the president might, or maybe he won't, I'm waiting, then there's no need to be suspicious. I'm not sniffing anything, and I'm not necessarily coming back, so you don't need to worry. Yeah.
All right. MANDEEP, the last time you went to Barbados, well, you know, I'm just back from Barbados, and
I want to talk to you
got
about
up there. Yeah. So the person you should have met, being a journalist yourself, is Vic Finance, and he's known in Barbados as the market vendor, like always the Guyanese, Michael Rodriguez, the Guyanese Critic. And this guy is a treasure trove of wealth on Caribbean history and broadcasting, right? It's just amazing what this guy knows. So when you come back, I want you to meet, you got to go to Barbados, you got to meet Vic Finance, because it's going to be so enlightening. Now, this is no joke. You know, I straight as an arrow. So them guys invite me over to their home. Radish invites me over to his house. His wife is preparing nice thing. Vic and his wife comes over, and I am here now, the big bad Guyanese critic from Guyana, ready to deal with this big man because I like him. I follow him, right? It's a funny guy. And then he starts discussing certain things about broadcasting, 40 years of broadcasting history. By the way, I'm only 42 years of age. So I'm looking at this guy and I'm saying, should I stop and tell him in the field that he's discussing and the areas that he's going, I'm totally retarded. You understand? I want to tell him, now most of the time I got a drink in my hand, I'm trying to eat cutters and all these things to look like if I'm occupied. This time I just don't have no answer. I ain't know what the guy is talking about. I understand what he's talking about. I know the concept, the context in which the discussion is, but this guy is calling people's name like Sir Ronald Sanders and Sir Shridhar Rampal, Guyanese that I know of their names, but so many people. And you gotta meet this guy. You gotta meet this guy. He is amazing. He's amazing, and it will just open up your eyes because I have been to Brazil, Suriname, so I've never met anybody. And I know veteran journalists here too. Somebody who's been in journalism, I should carry you to meet him when you come back, is Adam Harris.
Deal.
Has been around journalism from, the earlys and is very, very, has good background in journalism. One of the best. So I would sit to these guys and they got their stories, but it's limited to Guyana. When you talk to Vic Finance, he speaks about the Caribbean. He speaks about the English when the transition. He could tell you about the CBC. He could tell you how Caribbean broadcasting really came together. So yeah, but
so that's
Mandeep,
the deal. I would definitely hook up with him. What I found was that actually you're right. The world seemed to be really interested in the whole of the region. So when I brought out an article in The Guardian, I spoke about good leaders across the region, and there was a lot of interest in that. And when I spoke about in the Financial Times one specific part of the region, that's interesting, but people are actually interested in the whole breadth and depth of it. So, for example, I went to St. Lucia, and it's a very different type of island. To think that all these places are the same, or you can, in one broad stroke, cover them all, it's impossible. And that's the reason I'm coming back, because there's actually so much diversity, and it's so each and every place is unique, like each and every corner, which is why even in Guyana, I don't feel like I'm done, because there's so many different parts and parcels. Now, I wanted to ask you, you had said at the beginning of your trip that you are creating a world tour with an objective of highlighting different facets of different places that Guyana could benefit from. And the first episode you spoke about, like the Wi-Fi on the beach. So what top 5 things do you think now Guyana should adopt, having just come back?
starting with Wi-Fi at the beach.
Yeah, number
I
one.
use too much Wi-Fi, and to be clear, there's a bias there. I am the foremost user of data in Guyana because I'm always live, I'm always on. So I'm the foremost user of data. So yes, I would love, because they have Wi-Fi on the electric buses too. And I didn't get
electric buses. I think that's a huge one. Yeah.
Yeah. So Wi-Fi, what I want to take away, and I should say, but I could tell you, we're already seeing the transformation. If you look at my yesterday's live, Georgetown is for the most part clean. And remember, you saw a little different thing when you were here, because the president has now started his cleanup campaign. I think the president started his cleanup campaign after you left, right?
Yeah, just the weekend after, and everyone was
just
out
the weekend
in the streets.
after.
Yeah.
So Georgetown is clean. What we will have to do is, what are the takeaways and what should the takeaway be? Because clean is a look, right? Yeah, it's supposed to be clean. That is the look of it. What actions do we have to ilconquake or emulate from the Barbadians that will ensure, right? And this is about a person, an individual, and how they want to see their country and how proud they are of their country. So it's very important for Guyanese to take away. Barbadians play an integral role in how their country look because they don't go about. So they got people cleaning, but the people really and truly don't have much to clean because they don't have people trying. Now it is obvious. If 700,000 people are throwing stuff, 5,000 people can't clean that stuff in a day. So there's cleaning going on. The process is not one of cleaning. The process should be one of being clean. Because I got me rubbish in my car. I don't throw nothing out of my car, right? So that is important. We want to take away being clean compared to cleaning.
So can I interject and talk about cleanliness? Maybe is the value that you're talking about. If I zoom out and take you to Rwanda, after we know it for its genocide. There were 20 years of Hutu and Tutsis, the two clans killing one another, and at some point there was like, enough is enough, and the leader there, Paul Kagame, had said, not only is this going to stop, but also we're going to clean up our country, we're going to clean up our minds, we're going to clean up our psyche, we're going to clean up Kigali, the capital, we're going to clean up the countryside, and we're going to even clean inside out. So I talked about language, like how we don't say the word Hutu or Tutsi anymore. We see ourselves as united. And we're even the sense of like wearing uniforms. Like if a child is wearing flip-flops or is not even wearing shoes or has scruffy shoes, they're not allowed into school. There's a sense of take pride in who you are and how you're behaving and how you're acting, and you're right, and then you have very little to clean up because there's a sense of being there and a sense of pride that wasn't otherwise there. And this one attribute of cleanliness has transformed that nation. So I think that's a great adoption that you're taking on about
Were you
cleanliness and being
afforded the
clean.
opportunity to meet Kagame?
Was I given the opportunity to meet him? At that time, I feel as though the world has a bit of a love-hate relationship with him. The Western world sometimes suggests that there isn't a democracy in Rwanda and that he's been in power for too long. And so was it encouraged for me to meet him at the time? Not really. Do I think that in Africa he is admired, even adored, and very much respected? Yes. When I go across to other African countries, I get a sense that people really look up to what Rwanda has achieved. So going forward, I would definitely meet with him, regardless of how it's perceived, because I actually think he has done some remarkable things.
Well, just so you know, MANDEEP, as a journalist, as a professional, our job is to bring the story out no matter what that story is. But I know you got a two-part thing going on there that you go and see the best in countries and bring that out, right? But no matter what the situation is, you bring it up. In me, I interview anybody. I just try to reserve the right to be able to say here, I ain't gonna rebut. I'm gonna tell you you're lying. I ain't got no qualms about what I'm gonna say. But you can say what you want to say. But I also am gonna reserve that right too. So telling me about jumping in the off the falls in Dominica, that has interested me. So I think when you come back, we'll go Dominica together. If it's just for a weekend.
Love. And there's also the places that now are on my list. Like I'd love to see St. Vincent, Grenada, Antigua. Like there are so many, we just flippantly say the word Caribbean or South America or that region, but we're talking about 36 distinct countries with their own unique kind of values and assets. So yes, we'll definitely go. You'll love it.
So you spoke about an article in the Times, the New York Times, it was?
The Financial Times. It's like a very highbrow newspaper. It's like this big pink broadsheet, and in the Western world or the world, it's seen as like the most academic or professional, or anyone who works in the city, anyone who's dealing with money reads the Financial Times.
Tell me a bit about that article that you had in the Financial Times.
Okay, so I was really privileged in the sense that the night of the elections, Mia only allowed one journalist in the room. And when I say in the room, I mean like literally her home. And so the Financial Times were like, oh, the Guardian journalist hasn't been allowed in. The BBC journalist hasn't been allowed in. And they made a list of all the people that couldn't get in. And so they said, if you're in, yes, we'd love to get that coverage if it's the first exclusive. And I think I mentioned to you the fact that, I witnessed things like when the results were coming out and every single seat was being won by her party. She kind of called an emergency meeting with all her ministers and said, actually, I'm not sure if this is good, right, or fair for democracy. What are we going to do so that going forward we have a balanced government, and a government that really is representing democracy rather than, oh, we're winning all the seats, aren't we very great, aren't we lucky, la-di-da, and go forward. And so I got to see like a real kind of a sense of professionalism and integrity and concern for the country that I don't think many people get to see. Often when you hear about any country, frankly, and any election system, and I know Guyana has its own thoughts about this, you hear about corruption everywhere. I heard about corruption when the votes were being counted as Trump was coming into power, or even Biden, or anyone. Any election process is always rid with this conspiracy theories.
Corruption is the cry. It's become the wolf cry of the world. So
yes, exactly.
That's why I don't use terms like that. I, literally see people acting out of the norm. I use more of a ghetto slang, low life, hungry belly, I call them, and they don't like that. That thing perturbs people because people are like, what? Why are you calling me that? Where did that come from? What kind of scourge is that you're placing on me? Right? So they don't like it. And I saw that for a long time, Mandeep. When you say corruption in Guyana, you got girls thinking, who's that guy? Because they know he got some money. You understand? He got money. When you're corrupt, this guy's corrupt. No, you're a thief. You are a thief. Simple as that. I don't know how they get these nice terms and white collar and blue collar and this and that. You are a thief, man. And because it's separate, like politicians get assassinated and people get murdered. You understand?
Yeah. Good point.
So they create this difference. So although they're saying, no, we are equals. No. So why is my killing referred to differently from your killing?
Yeah, no, true.
Why are
very
you
true.
treated differently? Yeah, they make that and infuse it in you psychologically. Me, I see it and I say, here, all of them. That thing we were doing there is a low life, hungry belly behavior. And then they ask, will you get the from? Because it doesn't sound nice. You understand? Like assassinate. I'm thinking corruption. I'm thinking the origins of the word. Right?
Yeah.
Low, yes, everybody knows what low means and what life means. Simple. Everybody know what hungry means and belly means. The youngest child here knows that something is wrong. That is in the negative all the time. You're not confused. You're going to be a university professor to figure out corruption and the origins of the word. Yes, hungry belly, low life, it means this, and everybody understands it. And it has to do with an attitude. Unfortunately, a lot of Guyanese don't understand why do I use the term, but it works because it aggravates them and they want to know right away, why is he calling me this? Why am I referred to as this? And that is what you want. You want them thinking. So going back to
yeah
Mia Mottley and you in her campaign, I'm going to tell you something. I wasn't afforded that opportunity. I didn't get to meet her.
Oh, but that's because I'll tell you why. Because as soon as the elections happened, she had said that she's stepping for like the first 4 or 5 days, they all stepped away. And this didn't happen the first time round when they won the elections 3-4 years ago. They were like on the road immediately. They were working day one. And this time round, it was very different. She said, actually, we're going to take some time and we're going to recalibrate. And no one saw them and no one saw her. And even now, when I'm coming back to the region, she's already told me the 2 weeks or the week and a half, she's not going to be there. So I get the sense that there's this, there's not this, we're going to kill ourselves by working crazy hard. There's this kind of working smart and giving herself and her ministers time to get their heads around what they're really going to do and the problems that they're going to solve. So it wasn't just you, it was everyone and no one. So for example, the New York Times, this is just some insider
information. Was on the ground.
No, Critic, I need to give you some insider information. This New York Times journalist, who I know has been wanting to meet her, took a flight, like, you know, has come all the way from New York to get this article done.
He's there. I was there and he was there waiting.
Yeah. So it's not, don't take it personally. No. She had made it very clear that she was
not personal. What I'm saying, you have been afforded the opportunity and you're telling me what you know of Mia Mottley.
Mia, yeah.
The thing is, I met Mia Mottley at the CARICOM Secretariat in Guyana.
Yeah.
And the woman that I met is the same woman you're telling me about, that you met behind the scenes, right? She went to the United Nations and delivered a speech that expressed those same sentiments.
Yeah.
When our opposition was in government and was trying to steal the elections, she expressed sentiments that suggested she was the same upstanding, upright individual. So when you're telling me, I'm thinking, whoa, I would have liked to be behind the scenes, but no, I wouldn't have missed anything. It's the same woman we're talking about.
It's exactly. She has that same integrity and the same way of calling out lies, right? And the same way of calling out injustice. I'm not going to use any fancy words. I think you're totally right that when low life, belly hungry behavior is happening, that's your moment. Like you either call it out or you don't. And if you don't, yeah, well,
I can tell you, it is so nice in your mouth. The way you're pronouncing it.
What?
You seem to be giving some sort of important...
Low life, belly hungry, the same way that you just said it.
So you shouldn't use. Now, tell me, V20, what's V20?
Thank you for bringing that up. Okay, so the G20 are the kind of 20 most powerful economies in the world. So countries like, okay, we know the US or Russia, Saudi Arabia, India, China, Indonesia, etc., etc. They have like 80% of the world's trade, etc., happening through those countries. So those countries have got together and are looking at some big policy decisions. Now, alongside that, there are other groups that thought, wait a minute, are you making sure that technology is properly represented? So there's a T20. Or are you making sure that women are properly represented? So there's a V20, a W20, sorry, women. Are you making sure that youth are properly represented? So there's a Y20. And myself and a few other experts who are working in this space of values have said, look, if we're making policy decisions without values, there's almost no point in doing that. Like it's like doing something without integrity or without compassion or without any of the kind of human qualities. Instead of low life, belly hungry behavior, the behavior we want, why don't we bring that into it? And that's through values. So we've created a V20. It started 2 years ago when the G20 was operating in Saudi Arabia. We formalized this in Davos, the World Economic Forum, and then as the summit was happening, as the G20 was happening, the V20 made several suggestions, and the G20 started listening. So we did the same thing in Italy last year when the G20 was being held in October. We were there in Rome to make sure that values were being brought into policymaking. And so this year in October, it will be in Indonesia, in Bali, and we're all going to the Green School, which is a phenomenal institution. If you've ever been to, if you've never been to Indonesia, you need to go. And this is why I'm sitting where I'm sitting. This is an Indonesian door behind me. And there, the arts, the creativity, I mean, it's one of the biggest Muslim countries in the world. And yet we rarely know very much about it. And so the way that the V20 will conduct itself is to bring out all that culture, to bring out the positive elements of Indonesia, but also the countries that are not often heard. So why should it only be those powerful 20 countries? Why shouldn't we have all the countries to be represented? And there's this one value in Indonesia called gerong chai, which means kind of like a deep consideration. And it's in my book, The Values Compass. It was the first thing I wrote about regarding Indonesia. And so what we're going to do in October is make sure that those values come out. And so that things that the world is facing right now, for example, the pandemic. Now, we're talking about herd immunity. Well, look, it doesn't make sense that rich countries just vaccinate their whole population and poorer countries don't even get a vaccine. Not until the world is treated equally will the pandemic actually be dealt with. Until then, wave after wave, iteration of it after iteration will come, and there'll be a different delta, there'll be a different variant, and we'll all be, fearful again, or being at home, isolating again, etc. So it's like seeing that we're all super connected, and your problem is my problem is your problem. And this is the same way in which Mia actually went to COP26. She spoke about, and you see that if a glacier melts in the North Pole, it's the equator, it's your countries from the Tropic of Cancer to the Tropic of Capricorn that are hit first. That's where the water is rising. So you guys are on the frontier of climate change, even though the rest of the world is creating the climate change. And so similarly, we're saying with the V20 that until we start seeing our problems intertwined and together and the solutions together, there's no point creating policy change if you're not going to bring values and represent all nations equally and with the same level of consideration and care that you would want to be treated with.
If there's something I can add to your V20 that would help the world to understand from with my limited knowledge, one of the things when I started as the Guyanese Critic, I realized powerful men and politicians got consumed by their gains and hence forgot where they come from as they went on their journey. So you would see people act in a manner towards the poor or the less fortunate contemptuous, like if they deserve and the others did not deserve. Do you know what keeps me grounded? Although there's no research to suggest that this is fact, mentally I processed it, whereas if the world's equally amongst the world's citizens, everybody would be well off. Because if you look at what the world has financially, and you look at the population, 7.8 billion, right? They are individuals who don't have $1.
Yes, many, like half the world.
Jeff Bezos having 4 or 5 times, or maybe more times than that, the world population in money, right?
Yeah.
So if you were to take richer Jeff than most Bezos' money and share it among the poor, everybody will get $5, and they got many people die from hunger because they don't have $1, right? So Jeff Bezos might be able to save lives. Now these people are in whatever situation they're in, and it's obvious the world can't work that way. are going to be wasteful, whatever, right? There's not tested and proven. But what grounds you psychologically to ensure that you will forever be in servitude to people without feeling a sense of entitlement, without feeling contemptuous of these people? Now, hear what I do. And I told my friend the other day, our friend, now, I say here, if we were to split up all the money between all the people in the world equally, we'll all be better off. So when you see someone who doesn't have, estimate that you have a cut of their thing. You're just giving back to them. What happens when people give in? They act like they're presented, they are the source of. You're not the source of anything on one earth. You're the source of the problem. That is what you are, not the solution, because we have a problem. Ain't no bed of roses here. People are dying from hunger. We got differences all over the world. There are wars going on. As much as we don't talk about them every day, like we're a civilized thing and we're looking for aliens, those people don't want to fight us. Wherever the aliens are and civilized beings are, they don't want to meet us. You understand? Because we can be like bacteria to them. I'm telling you, they don't want to meet us. Those people living nice and wherever they're, and they calculating, we want to meet them. Let me fighting all the time. We would be like ants to civilized beings, right? So if when you're doing for people, you know that I consider myself fortunate with what I do, with how I live. My kids, people call me on a daily basis and say, Critic, I have this problem. A kid went to the hospital, we can get a treatment. And I'm thinking, Paul is with his head set, he's doing something, and his life is on a trajectory. Sean is doing this, Michael is doing that. I got to reach out because they've already set, they've taken, they get a jump ahead of the race. However it happens. Don't think about how it happens, because that is the thing that brings you feeling that you are entitled. That is entitlement. Thinking about, oh, my dad did this. My father, I get some inheritance. No, no, no. The main fact, if there were equal shares, we would all be happy. And there are many unhappy people when that, I'm not telling you to go give them back the money. I am saying when they come to you, you serve them wholeheartedly, knowing that your mere existence is because of them.
Yeah, and that it's not yours in the first place, and you weren't born with it, and you're not going to die with it. So the only thing you have is what you do that's good for others. That's the only merit you have in this world. But also, I think you're talking about income redistribution, right? And making sure that those who don't have. Now, I'm not on some Guyanese soapbox. I haven't been bribed or bought by the government, clearly, because I don't even know if I'm coming back. But I did notice in the president and the VP, Jagdeo, and President Ali Irfan, that there was a sense of making sure.
Move a little bit to the side to center yourself. Just center yourself.
So the thing is, when I do this, your face,
no, just to the center, not me and your foot, right there. Beautiful.
Yeah. Okay.
Beautiful, right. Yeah. Cool.
So I do notice that there is this sense of like wanting to make sure that everyone is looked after, whether we want to call it a socialist or a communist, the fact that they call each other comrade, etc. There's this sense of making sure that everyone is equally respected, leading a dignified life, whether it's the Amerindia, that all the communities are going to benefit from the changes that are going to take place in Guyana, and that their needs are met, and that everyone is able to lead their best life. I really see that sense. So you're right. It kind of goes beyond, we don't just have a responsibility to give when we're asked to give, or when someone says, I need help in the hospital, or I need help with my school fees or whatever. We have a responsibility to make sure that there is greater equality in this world. If not, these wars that you haven't mentioned, etc., terrorism and wars and this low life hungry belly is a reality. That behavior is because there are so many people who do have a hungry belly, and you get to a point where you don't know how you're going to feed your children. You know, your children are too small to be able to feed themselves. It's not like they can get up and beg for money yet. At those stages when there's so much inequality and you have absolutely nothing, you get to a point where you have no choice. You can't think of how to right all the wrongs. And then we have the hideous crimes or the low life belly hungry behavior. But before we even get there, all of us have a responsibility right now. We talk about climate change, but it's the same with income redistribution or caring for one another, right? You have to care for one another in all these different ways. And until we do, we're going to have horrible, hideous crimes, both nationally and internationally. And I'm not justifying people's behavior. I'm saying that all of us have a responsibility to make sure that our neighbors and that our community and that every single person within that community is looked after.
Mandeep, I'd be a hypocrite to be sitting here and hear you say our government seems to have an interest in redistributing wealth and not give you some background and insight. I can tell you, our government are made up of some of the best politicians in the Caribbean. And that being said, they ain't back and hungry for help the people out of the goodness of their heart. They lost an election in 2015. You understand? They know what it means to stay in power. They want to stay in power. Our president, though, I think he's being swept up in this thing and he's really personalizing it because you could feel the intensity in what he's doing. Normally, as a politician, you gotta maintain a certain composure and you gotta stay outside, you know, and you do it numbers wise. I think for the first time, we have a president who really senses the people because, you know, he's got a young child, he's got a beautiful wife by his side, and he's in the family, and he's always been, you know, he's been a part of the government. He's thinking what best he could do for this country. And I think he senses that he has this unique opportunity because he's the first president is now going to access the oil resource, right? If you use that wisely, his tenure is 10 years and that's it. They got to get next president. But I think our president now is trying to make sure that he generally leaves a legacy. And I told him one time, I told the president, I said, I don't know if you know, sir, but you have supporting you a man who was president for 12 years, a man who was finance minister, one of the most savvy politicians in the Caribbean. So failure is not an option for you. You support your advise and support the vice president. Is one of the smartest politicians in the Caribbean, right? So I said, I told him, I said, Mr. President, if you don't become, because you now are building on the best. If you don't become the best thing for the next 100 years, you have lost an opportunity. And I think the president is now grasping, compared to people who are studying, how can they get economical, you know, when they leave office, when they retire, what they're left with, they want to land or getting corrupt. I think the president sees that he has the opportunity to set a foundation for himself, and not only for himself, but the trajectory for this country, that people will continue to look back and say, this is President Ali's legacy. So I think he's swept up in that, and I'm hoping he stay on that, because I too could get lost. You know, sometimes I'm about And when I was in Barbados, people carry me to the beaches and say, Critic, are you enjoying yourself? The critic doesn't enjoy himself. I'm looking for things, right? I I live enjoyment. It doesn't come in bursts. I love what I do. So the beaches didn't make any difference to me. The view from the apartments didn't make any difference to me. The fish, nothing made any difference to me because all I do is live life to its fullest. But I'm trying to build something. I'm trying to leave something. You know,
Well, speaking of legacy, can I ask you? So you know that the president of finally just went to Suriname, and the president Santoki was there. I met with both of them, and then the president of Brazil joined. And as you know, his mother died, and so they had to just change the date a little bit. But all three of them came together. Do you know what was the outcome of that in terms of the legacy they want to leave, in terms of like the relationships between the nations?
well, really and truly, that was setting the beginning or the foundation that we will start talks and what those talks will be. Most likely, our president Ali in their manifesto talked about, bridging Suriname, Guyana, Brazil, so all the way a coastal road, things like that. They're going to be looking at, but the details of it, what it's going to be like, should have been after the Brazilian president would have come here and seen, and they would have had more talks. But I'm telling you, they are going to be going forward, and whatever comes out of that is going to be interesting because Guyana's development heavily depends on it. And our president, I'm hoping, is going to be driving. I know he shares his vision with the people, but they just got to keep. He just has to keep his, feet on the pedal.
And what's nice is that the two presidents, Suriname and Guyana, pretty much came into power at a similar time and have seemed to be very kind of united in their vision. And I think that unity makes the whole bloc stronger and their vision a lot stronger.
Yeah, and
you can't do anything alone.
We have our budget being rolled out presently. Their budget debates as we speak. Budget debates are just about to start, and to say it is the biggest budget, like big is news, right? Everybody says big, and I don't like using things like that. In Guyana, we got term big up yourself, right? They said big up yourself. And I said, when people refer to me, I said, no, don't tell me big up yourself. Tell me large up yourself because I'm larger than big. That's how I see myself. You understand? I want to be better.
And what does it mean? Big up yourself, large up yourself. What are you saying?
Congratulations.
To yourself.
Like somebody see you,
congratulate yourself.
You've done well. Here we say, big up yourself. Somebody said, congratulations, you're doing well. Yeah. But we said, the DJ, it started with the DJ thing in the discourse. It said, big up yourself, right? So,
I congratulate yourself.
Congratulate yourself, yeah.
All right.
Or
and relax yourself.
You,
what does that
congratulations.
mean? Relax yourself.
Relax yourself. Relax yourself. It's like when somebody brushing you off. Relax yourself.
Sounds so nice. It's a bit like corruption or assassination. You think you're saying someone's saying something nice, but it's not that nice, right? They're trying to dismiss you. Interesting.
Yeah. So
with this budget,
the budget is the biggest budget.
Right.
I don't like the sound, the tone. The budget that is presently being rolled out is to the tune of 550 something billion, 50 odd billion dollars. The last budget was $340 billion. Now there's been somewhere around a 40% increase in the budget. So I want to say that is the largest contribution or reinfusion of assets to the people. Because while this budget rolls out and says what it will do, there have been no increase in taxes. What happens and what worries me with our budget When there was a 100 billion budget, a 200 billion budget, a 300 billion budget, there were always claims of corruption. While there was a PNC government, when there's a PPP government, claims of corruption are always spiraling in the air. So my worry now, and we are in an unfortunate position since we do not have an opposition that is robust, that is ready to take on the fight of a government that has unlimited resources now and willingness to give to the people, because it is not a government. I do not think there's any government that would sit in their cabinet meeting and say, well, here what we're going to do. We're going to siphon off some money here. We're going to teach some there. We're going to stash some stuff. Obviously not. But there are elements in every government, like every family, like every company, who are self-centered and want to take for themselves. And that is where the corruption is. Now, unfortunately, we do not have a robust opposition that has a background or has a level of understanding or transparency rooted in their upbringing that could come now and hold the government accountable. That's my worry.
That's your job, isn't it, Critic? That with the lack of opposition, that you then hold the government accountable.
Yes, but how much can I do, Mandeep? No, it takes a lot of resources.
You can do it. This is why you're there.
Why it is important to have a robust opposition is because who are in the opposition now, the shadow ministers who are in the opposition, because they got shadow ministers, this is how our government works. So the agriculture minister is an MP. He's also a minister, but he has a minister shadowing him, right? An MP, opposition MP shadowing him. A lot of the shadow ministers just come out of government. So they understand the inner workings, how it works, right? I can see it from the outside, but it will be like a film of rust, right? Of waste on top of a bucket of water. Just a film. Look at the depth of that bucket of water. I can't start to fathom. How does it run? What is the process? What is the procurement process? You understand? So we need, that is unfortunate that at this time, when we have more money running through the system, you have an opposition that the government continue to look across the aisle and laugh at. I said, what them teeth? You have people.
I get what the problem is, but I'm wondering, okay, I understand the lack of opposition. I understand the need for opposition. And I understand that there's a lot of money in the government right now and it's a 40% increase. So what are we going to do to make sure that you have the checks and balances that you're asking for?
Multiple things.
Tell me.
Today, again, I'm going to reach out to the opposition because they have their own illusions because that's why they're in opposition, just out of government, as to how they think things should be done, right?
Okay.
It is my opinion, Mandy, and experience. Now, I'll give you a little quick rundown.
Tell me.
And this relates directly to this. I go into Barbados. I type in at the airport, I'm going to Barbados. Somebody messaged me, Critic, come and stay by we.
Yeah.
There's the guy who picked us up at the airport. I've never seen those people in my life. I don't know those people. You understand?
Very lovely, though. Very, very lovely.
Those people love and care for me because they see what I do. So I wake up in the morning and I just do what I do. I'm hoping the politicians can understand how this works, because everybody asks critical more money. So Dean is moving me around.
Yeah.
Some guy said, Critic, what are you doing later? We want you to come to the bar. We go to the bar. Yeah. Guess how you're moving? I said, Dean is moving me around. The man said, what's your car today? A guy calls next morning, come have breakfast with us.
Yeah.
Why? You understand? Who is this guy? Well, I don't know. I've never seen this before. Them guys from Varsity Critic, you ever go to resort in city? I said, pardon me, no, I ain't. Man said, but if you see the beach, go there for 3 days. When I did the bar, when I did the airport, people come critic, we got this wine for you. A guy and his wife, Quincy, and his wife
Yeah.
who's the chef at St. Lawrence restaurant. If you go out, if the politicians get it, it's not about money. Because we want money. You want money for power. You want money for build a house. You want money for do things. You're already having a salary. But if you genuinely
I
pour your
think there's
heart,
a slight difference. I think there's a slight difference. You have because it's your character, your behavior, it's your reason for being that has the world respond to you in the way they do. Whereas for anyone else who is in a position of power, this is not talking about the Guyanese government or I'm not talking about any specific government, I'm just talking about power and the politics of power. Once they're in that position, they see it as, oh, we're only here for 10 years or 5 years, or normally even 4-year term. And I see it a little bit here in the UK, where I don't know if you've seen the way Boris, Prime Minister, is being ridiculed right now or being crucified for these parties or whatever. The point is that there's this sense that we're only here for a very short amount of time. Let's protect everything we can. Let's do whatever we can to protect ourselves for the future. Now, you, critic, are protected for the future because this is your way of life. This is who you are. Naturally, you will always be resourced or looked after, no matter where you go, no matter no matter where you land, you'll be looked after. Don't you get that sense?
yes,
Yeah. But these guys don't have that
if
security,
the
and they
people
don't have
feel
that
the
sense.
love, if Boris
Yeah.
goes
Yeah.
and does the best he can do for the people of the UK for 10 years, he will
Yeah.
never be forgotten. People don't forget.
I know. I wish
People do not forget
he
being
had that
touched and
foresight.
loved.
I know. But I think people, and this is not again me talking about Boris or any specific government, I just think power, people become greedy with power. I wish
Well,
that wasn't the case.
that is why I told you the principle of my thought process is
And this is
it
why we need
is
values. Yeah. Yeah.
like
Go on.
sometimes I go to bars and you got people coming up to you drunk and they're up your face, and I don't like that, right? But I got to remind myself, you are not above anyone. Either you stay and deal with it or you leave. You understand?
Yeah.
Because they got this hope, and nothing is better to thief some money from a man than shatter his hope. You could see it in children when you shatter their hope, they hope to get, so you shatter their hope. It destroys them for life. It changes something in people,
Yeah, it
So they
breaks
could just
them. It breaks
understand.
them. Yeah.
I know there's economics to everything. There's a principle. There are ways things are supposed to be done. But if these politicians, just because here where the double standard is, they say when they're campaigning, when you vote, they present themselves this way, that this is what they're going to do. If they only were to do what they said they were going to do, Mandeep, the world would be surprised. Like,
Yeah.
where
And
this
we'll be
one
in a
come
much better
from?
place. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So,
But
and
honestly, I know I sound like a broken record, but this is where the values come in. Like, if you realize the power of your word and what you can do when you have integrity and what the change, you're talking about legacy essentially. If you think this is my opportunity to really make a difference, and this is what's going to sit in the hearts and minds of people, not me stuffing my pockets. That's not going to, that's very short term view, but the long term view is to build, is to give, essentially, to think about others and to make sure that you've left the country in a better way than you found it, in a substantially better way than you found it. And
do
then
you
you'd
do
be
you
looked
think
after forever. Yeah.
do you get the sense that President Ali understands that? I'm going to tell you something. I could call anybody, but me and them guys ain't got a relationship, the one on one. Do you get the sense that President Ali gets it? He's going to want to leave something for the next 10 years? You get that sense?
That was 100% my distinct impression. Yes.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Tell us about the Values Compass, Mandeep, your book, and where is it? What's been going on with it? Tell me, what's going on with your new book?
Well, you're part of my new book. Guyana is definitely part of my new book. And that's why I'm coming back to the region to kind of complete that. It's coming out in different languages. So there'll be it's coming out in Greek in a few months. So it's being launched there, and around the world, it's coming out in paperback on the 5th of May. So there's going to be a huge kind of launch, and I'd love as much kind of support around values as possible for then. And I think there's no point talking about this if we don't share it with our children, if we don't share it with our families. So one practice I'm just going to share, we're towards the end of our live, right? It's towards the end of the hour. And what I suggest is that after this, when you next sit down with either your loved one or your group of friends or your family, when you next share a meal, ask yourselves what it is. We're at the beginning of the year. We're at the beginning, January just finished. It's the Chinese New Year now, whatever it is, this is just the beginning. What are the few things that are most important to you, the few values that are most important that are going to shape your year? When I did this in my family, my children said, Mama, we want more fun. We want every day to have an element of fun. And I heard in you when you were talking just now, it seemed to be that you wanted to maximize every moment, to be really living the moment. It doesn't matter what the moment is, whether it's, you had said it doesn't matter whether it's beaches or not beaches or whatever it is, but to live the moment. So I encourage everyone listening or watching to have this conversation with the people that matter around them. What is the element or what is the value that you want this year to hold, so that each and every day has that sense of fulfillment or happiness or success that you want it to have? Later on today, in a few hours, I'll be speaking to Dr. Deepak Chopra. I don't know if you know him, but he is this beyond life personality who is a medical doctor, but is very well known in the US and the rest of the world for his enlightenment that he shared in terms of meditation and in terms of your thinking. He's written over 82 to 90 different books. You'll see he has millions of followers on YouTube, etc. Works a lot with Oprah Winfrey. And during the pandemic, he shared these kind of meditations that were to do with abundance or well-being or mental health. And one of those I did for 21 days. And it was about bringing in an element of, like, how we just talked about how power leads to greed. Well, if you think you already have everything you want, or whatever it is that you think is important to you. So let's say love is important to you, or money is important to you, or whatever it is that is important. If you start giving that is going to come back to you a millionfold, like many, many, many times over. And so this is what it is a little bit with karma, right? Like if we start looking after one another, we'll be looked after too. And that's what's operating in your life, Critic. So so watch this space. I'll be speaking with Dr. Deepak Chopra, who single-handedly had me publish the book. He is on the front cover of my book. And His Holiness, the Dalai Lama, is on a par or parallel to that same kind of endorsement or encouragement or support. These legends have supported me with my work, and just any little thing I can do to amplify the gifts that they give to the world, I would do. I'm just super grateful.
Well, when you're with Deepak today, you could give me a call and let me say hello if the opportunity is afforded you. So
yes, it'll be at around 4 o'clock my time, which will be in like 3 hours ish. So I will message you then.
Call me. So I think this was very interesting, Mandeep, and it's always interesting when we sit down and get to the issues of the people and you know, the way that we want to see the world. Everything mightn't be picture perfect because we are not the almighty beings, but at least we are doing our part in changing the world. Again, Mandeep, thanks a million, and see you a little later, soon to coming back to the Caribbean. Take care.
Yeah, in 10 days. In 10 days. I'm
For
counting the
10 days a
sleeps.
day. Cool.
Yes.
Take care, Mandeep.
Yeah. Okay.
So, guys, Mandeep, Dr. Mandeep Roy